Welcome everyone to Bethlehem Corner. My name is Janine Santoro, and I'm the Director of Equity and Inclusion here for the City of Bethlehem. Today we spotlight the work of Rhea Levy, our local librarian and storyteller. You might know Rhea from her time as a librarian at NCC, or more recently at Bethlehem Area Public Library, where she spearheaded the Black Bethlehem Project, facilitated a Courageous Conversations series, and many other community forums and events. Today she comes to us with a different hat on as the founding director of the Esther Lee African American Heritage Center, an up-and-coming project that will bring to light the rich history of the Black Bethlehem community. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the Bethlehem community?
Well, I moved here to Bethlehem before my son was born, and that was back in 2005. And when I first came, I was actually working at Eastern Public Library, and then I went to Philadelphia to work, and I was a children's librarian in Philadelphia. And it was becoming too much to go back and forth because I was living in Bethlehem and working in Philadelphia, and so I decided to accept a job at Northampton Community College as a reference and instructional librarian. And I spent about 6 years there. My son grew up, and I thought that, it's time for me to get a full-time job. And I worked at the Bethlehem Area Public Library for 7 years. And I would like to say that had it not been working at the Bethlehem Area Public Library, I don't think that I would have become so involved in the Black community here in Bethlehem. It doesn't really matter where I go. I think I really like to get involved in the community and being part of that Black experience community.
In a lot of ways, you're Bethlehem's community librarian, known for most notably bridging the gaps in the city's history with the Black Bethlehem Oral History Project, which went live in July of 2020. Can you briefly tell us about that project and what was at stake if you never completed that project?
Oh gosh, that word never came into my mind. I noticed that there wasn't much information in the local history room about the Black experience here in Bethlehem. What happened is that a group of students came into the library and they wanted information about the African American experience here in Bethlehem. And as a librarian, it's like I felt so bad because I couldn't really find substance. I couldn't find substantial information for them. And I think that was the impetus that actually pushed me to even want the community to know about the Black experience here in Bethlehem. And so when this grant came across my desk from the Lehigh Valley Engaged Humanities Consortium, which is through Lafayette College, and a grant from the Mellon grant, I applied, and I knew exactly what I wanted to write my proposal on. I wrote up my proposal, and I got the grant, and I was really excited. I felt as if I won the Pulitzer Prize that day, actually, when I got that grant money, because it's like, oh boy, it's like now I have the money to actually go forth and do this. And it was a lot of work, Janine. It was a lot of work.
You're now focusing your efforts on a new project. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the Black Bethlehem Project was the reason why I wanted to start the Esther Lee African American Heritage Center. And again, people like to identify with people that look like themselves. And because there is such a deep-rooted history here about the Black experience, and again, we can go back even further to the 1700s with the Black Moravians and the African Moravians, and a lot of people, when I say a lot of people, I mean local people, don't know about that history. Academia knows about that history, but the local community doesn't know that Africans lived with the Moravians, they ate at the same table, and actually slept in the same space and was buried in the cemetery because they were brothers and sisters. And so that is what Bethlehem actually signifies. That Bethlehem is the light. Bethlehem should be that example. Bethlehem should be that example when it comes to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so now the Heritage Center will represent the fact that we're bringing alive that lost history about the African Americans that came from the South. You have the Africans, and people don't know about that part of history. So now we want all of that to come to light. And so that's the reason why that is important. And I think it's going to benefit the Bethlehem community to learn about the African American community because it's so deeply rooted. So Esther Lee, everybody knows Esther Lee is the president of the NAACP. And to me, I see her as the mother of the community. And I see her as the mother of the Black community. And so I think it was, it's only fair to say, let's name this center after her, because she's been so instrumental here in Bethlehem.
So what are your hopes for the Esther M. Lee African American Heritage Center, and how do you imagine that the physical space will be utilized?
So first, it's going to be an archival space where people can actually bring in their materials and feel comfortable leaving their materials there, so that, again, so scholars, students, and researchers can actually come in and look at the physical objects. I also would like to see the oral history aspect of it continue. So creating a space, a tech space where people can actually come in and interview each other. And I don't just want interviews between the blacks and the blacks, but I want interviews also with blacks and whites, so that, tell me about your experience and compare their experience living here in Bethlehem. So it will be that space as well. It would also be a space where people can come and communicate with each other and have a conversation and have discussions and lectures. So that is what that space is for us to have artwork. We're here in the Camera Museum, and so people can actually, local artists could come in and display their artwork. So it will be an all-purpose room for people from all walks of life, from all educational background, from the small to the oldest.
And we know that while it is the first day of Black History Month, that's not the only time to tell stories about the Black experience. So as a librarian and a storyteller, what are some of the new stories or developments you would like to tell our Bethlehem community in 2022?
So again, I told you that we're in the Camera Museum. And so for Black History Month, there's going to be an opening day exhibition of Miss Esther Lee's papers. And she's actually going to be here. And we're going to hear her voice. We're going to hear her stories. Again, I just want to go back a little bit when it comes to, Black History Month and the example of, I like to use the Moravians as an example, because like I said, the Moravians lived what we're trying to accomplish here: equity, diversity, and inclusion. For Black History Month, I am so happy that that you decided to interview me. I'm happy that the Esther M. Lee Heritage Center is going to be coming to fruition. We actually want people to donate, financially to our cause. We want a building, and so again, we want that physical space. And so it will be even better if we can actually get that done by the end of February.
Raya, thank you so much for sharing your time and your work with us. We're so grateful to you.
And thank you for having me. Thank you.